All right, here we go. Today we are doing something a little different. We're doing different from what we've been doing, I guess. We're gonna do a clue analysis, a clue talk, as I call it, and we're gonna do it on the Forrest Fenn box. Why? Because people have been asking for it. I don't know. People have been asking, hey, when are you gonna do the Forrest Fenn box? No YouTubers are talking about Forrest Fenn. It's all past and the future, or it's all by the chapters. All right, let's give the people what they want. We'll see how it works out. All right, so Forrest Fenn box. Again, I haven't touched this one in a while. The first time, I think I got 2 or 3 videos out on it, probably a month old. The first one, I had a location in Montana it was leading me to. The second one, more toward the corner of Colorado, toward Utah. Dinosaur Monument, Brown's Hole, I guess, is that area. So, spoiler alert, I don't have a new area from today's go through, but I do have some new takes, some new insights. So we'll see how that works out, and I'll try to front load those. So first off, something I didn't do the last 2 times I did the book. I did a deep dive on Forrest Fenn box. One, because I don't think the ebooks were out the first time I did it. But I did go through all the ebooks, and I wanted to see the blurbs from there, because I'm counting that, until we hear otherwise from JCB himself, I'm counting that as like official, like canon, just as part of the book, right? So from reading those, and I do this to get a give myself a left and right lateral limit, to give myself rules for this box, for this chapter. You know, where am I pulling? Where does JCB want me to look to get the clues from here? And so here's what I found out, right? If you read the ebook blurb, I went to Apple eBooks. You'll see that the blurb says, or blurb or summary or intro, whatever you want to call it, read this book to find clues to decipher. All right, so for me, I circle clues because we're looking for clues. And by read this book is referring to the chapter, right? Because in the ebook, you get the chapter, but you also get the the postscript and the how-to section, right? So is that included in it? I don't know. But it says, read this book to find the clues to decipher where in the Rocky Mountains this treasure resides. All right, and so we've had some clarification. I always believed that it was the 4 states and it was in the Rocky Mountains. So from day one, Jump Street, that's where my solves have always started. Other people believe different, but now we have clarification from JCB himself, and I think the latest Dave interview, that he actually says, yeah, it's the 4 states, it's the Rocky Mountains. So if you haven't locked in on that or focused on that, that's where you're looking for the Forrest Fenn box. Now, some people have taken the 4 states to mean anywhere. I'm actually just going off of the 4 states, and I, type in Rocky Mountains, and I just find the widest possible area. So a couple of maps have the Rocky Mountains more narrow, but the one I'm using has it pretty wide, which I think I might post that at the end of the video. All right, give me a chance to play the Estes Quest theme song again. I love that song. All right, so that's where I'm starting. Right, I'm starting to read this book. I got to look for clues, and I even have to decipher the clues, right? Because he doesn't say just find the clues for the box, right? Find the clues to decipher. So in my mind, there's something you have to do with the clue once you find it. Okay, so in my head, read the chapter, find clues, decipher them, and my area is the Rocky Mountains in those 4 states specifically, right? What else? What else can we find? So I don't need to cover into that. All right, traditional. All right, this is another word I have underlined from my introduction. Why do I have traditional underlined? Because on page 200 and 207. For this solve, I asked Seth to make a more traditional treasure box. All right. So in my mind, he wants us to think traditionally. That's the way I'm thinking. A traditional treasure box. And you might think, well, traditional. There's a map, right? In traditional pirate or traditional treasure mythology, you have a map. Well, actually, if you go even further, I guess there have been records of coded words or coded messages to convey someone of where a treasure is. Because lines are pretty easily remembered versus, having to draw down a map and then pass that on, and then how do you make sure that the person interprets it right? But if you and the person have a word or a shared history, you can use a intermediary. You can use a third person or a third medium to convey a message that no one else will be able to figure out. But with you and that other person have a shared history, they'll be able to recognize the words. And that's a little bit easier than versus drawing a map for this other person, right? So traditionally, a lot of old treasures, not just old treasures, but wealth that was, if you're thinking of like Europe, and thinking of like your castles being invaded, or all the wars that went on. If you wanted to bury an iron box full of coins, and how would you leave a message to someone else? Well, coded paragraphs and a couple lines were pretty easily to pass on and keep safe for when the land was safe to go back and retrieve, versus a map, right? That could be misinterpreted or smudged, or landmarks, especially with war going on, could be torn up and replaced. So anyways, that's the logic I'm going with for a traditional treasure hunt, for a traditional treasure box, right? That's the theme. And where do I get themes from again? Well, let's go to page 200, and I got notes this time. Yeah, we're legit. 201. And on page 201, so we're looking at second to last paragraph from the bottom. Each of these 4 chapters in his treasure box has its own unique style, subject, and solution. So again, love the alliteration there. Is there something to do with S's, 3 S's? I don't know. But I'm taking that as unique style, subject, and solution. The unique solution's kind of a no-brainer there, because if a solution is going to be revealed when the treasure box is found, it would have to be unique so it doesn't compromise the integrity of the games for the other boxes, right? So I got that, but unique style and subject, I think that's where we get. He's used themes before a lot in the book as a whole. So to use style and subject, I think is intentional. So anyways, that's where I'm looking for as far as when I start reading through this chapter. I have traditional is what I'm thinking, all right? Because here's another one. Again, I should have put it back, page 201. I also have history versus riddle written down. Why do I have history versus riddle? Because for the next 4, okay, up until now, the last paragraph, page 201, up until now, the bulk of this book, part 1, has been inspired and directed by the stories. I like the word stories in history, right? Has been inspired and directed by the stories surrounding the items in our treasure. You look up the histories of the items in each chapter, and that should give you an idea of what the clues are, the hints. But these next 4 chapters diverge from that structure to varying degrees, all right? And it's interesting to note, to varying degrees. Kimberly and I quite enjoy puzzles, riddles, mysteries, and escape rooms and board games. Right, so that gives you 5 options with 4 boxes. In this spirit, I have taken creative license to have some fun. So each of these 4 chapters has its own distinct theme. Remember, I talked about theme. He's using a theme there, but earlier he said style and subject, which is different. Again, so then it goes on to a little bit more detail about that. But for this box, I have written down riddles, all right? Because I look at all 4 boxes as a whole, and I have, literally write on a piece of paper, I wrote the 4 boxes, right? PNF, AT, Fenn, Pokemon. And then underneath of it, I write 5 the games, right? Holding back a sneeze. Puzzles, riddles, mysteries, escape rooms, and board games. And just match them up. Simple as that. I mean, puzzles seems easy to me. Puzzles, word search, right? Mysteries, yeah, mystery goes to the Pokemon story. Escape rooms, question mark. Board games, most board games need a board, right? You need a map. So board games, AT box. Riddles, we're still riddles and escape rooms left. Riddles, I just seem easy to me. Most riddles are delivered verbally, all right? Although you can have a picture riddle. So riddles, I go with the Fenn box. That still leaves escape room. Escape room, because of the different layers in the puzzle, I put escape room again with the past and future. But I haven't ruled it out in the back of my mind. If we get something, if somehow the riddle, it leads us to a room, then maybe we'll bring back escape room. Or if maybe the location that we end up finding for this box looks like a room, or looks like a house, or looks like a place with multiple entries and exits, we might bring back escape room. But for me, for right now, starting to dive into this chapter, I've written down clues, decipher, Rocky Mountains, traditional, history versus riddle. All right, and so that's a couple of other words I have down. I had T question mark. Why do I have T? Because the very last sentence of page 201, I hope you will forgive me. Another person might find that solved just their brand of tea. Now, he's used a lot of sayings in this book, and this one's not as out off the wall as the other ones. I mean, a brand of tea, that's not my brand of tea. I think that's pretty common. I don't think that's really that weird, but I just wrote it down, so maybe, I don't know, if maybe we come across chamomile, or if Earl Grey appears, and we might use that in there. The last thing I have written down is the word grin. I have that circled and question marked because of the last phrase on page 202. Perhaps they'll even provoke a grin from you, as they certainly did me. All right, it was a joy writing these last four short chapters. Perhaps they'll even provoke a grin from you, as they certainly did for me. Just seems a little bit extra, seems put in there for a reason. All right. So now that we kind of have what we're looking for, the rules for how we read this, there's one more thing before we can actually start reading, and that is we'll go to the actual puzzle itself, and we'll read what he says right before it. So that's this paragraph right here. While you don't need to know Forrest Fenn's poem in order to solve this one, you may want to go online and read it yourself. To give yourself some additional context. But everything you need to know to arrive at a fairly close search area for our hobnail treasure box can be found within my poem below. All right, that's pretty interesting because the other ebook blurbs for the other books, they are as follows, right? So for the AT box, it says there's a map that'll lead you directly to treasure. For the past and future, it says there's pages. That means to bring in the text, right? Don't just focus on the crossword, but look at the pages and the words. It says there's pages, games, and puzzles in the book that help you find the treasure. All right, so nothing about exact, nothing about direct. For the Pokemon, this one says you can find the exact location, and the story holds the clues. So for the Pokemon, a little bit less about New Orleans, everybody doing the hotel bit, and more about, it actually says just the story holds the clue. And I think it's pretty clear that the story starts about the fictional story but some people say the story is the whole chapter, which in my mind, why wouldn't you just say the chapter? All right, so there's still a little bit of debate about that, and I'm not going to take a hard stance on it, but that's just where I'm at. So again, of the three boxes, looks like the Pokemon box will give you the exact location. Past and the future, it'll help you find it. All right, so again, that's probably a heavy boost on the ground. The AT box, a map leads directly to the treasure. All right, so again, that's pretty exact. The lion's share, well, we're going to skip that one for right now, but the lion's share, again, it says fairly close search area. Okay, so I think for me, fairly close, in the context of everything that JCB said, this one's going to be another boost on the ground. Like even if JCB himself were to whisper you the clues and solution for the poem, you'd still probably spend a couple solid days, minimum, boots on the ground to find this box. All right. All right. So now that we have kind of our rules for how we're going to do this and what we're looking for, let's go ahead and start. One more rule: the photos in the box. All right, so very interesting about here. This is on page 202. As a final note, the treasure items pictured in these next four chapters are not necessarily in any specific treasure box unless directly specified. Why would JCB have a picture of a treasure in a treasure specific chapter unless that was in the box? Think about that. Marinate on it, right? Let that in your thoughts. And then you might come to the same conclusion I did, that if we can prove that a treasure is a picture of a treasure item is in a subchapter, and it doesn't specifically say this is in the box, There must be a reason, i.e., got to help you with a clue or a hint, right? That's the logic I'm going off of, all right? Now we can dive in. All right, so the first thing we have is the hobnail box, the picture right there. Doing a pretty deep study of it, trying to zoom in as close as you can. We have the same top two little nipples, you might call them. Maybe something you push down. Although this one, I mean, again, some people say, why are you figuring out? You don't need to figure out how to open the box if you don't have the box. Humor me, right? I'm just looking at the box, just a surface glance, 5 or 10 minutes, all right? Because maybe, just maybe, I'm looking for any possible advantage, any type of clue that'll help me find the thing, all right? And looking at the panels, the way they're cut and they're grooved, you can kind of see them, how the two right here, all right, you can kind of see them, maybe sliding left or right, maybe the top slides. If you look closely at the where the hinge is, all right, right there where the hinge is, you can see how maybe that might slide also. The very middle circle looks like you can push down on it. Again, so I mean, just looking at that, nothing really groundbreaking there, but I want to look at each photo. The caption for it is pictured here as a hobnail inspired treasure box created by Seth Gould, right? Seth Gould. Interesting thing, for a second, I was like, oh, the olive jar isn't in there, because it doesn't specifically say on this page 206, where the olive jar is. But on the next page, it does say, it does say, I have left this jar and its full contents, along with several other items for you inside a box. Seth Gould specifically made for this treasure. So the first treasure item we see in the book, in this chapter, is olive jar, and you can check off, yes, he said it's in the box, all right? Next one, the coin. He does say the coin is in the box. Yes, down here. But what about this beautiful full-page detailed picture of this Tyrona gold and stone pendant, all right? Where's the caption for it? No caption for it. Tyra gold and stone pendant from Colombia around 500 to 1000 AD. Doesn't say it's in the box, but if we look on page 209, we will say, this is where it gets good. Right at the top, page 209. There are 3 additional items from Forrest Fenn's treasure pictured in this chapter that are now in our treasure. At least one of these is specifically in this treasure box, although maybe more. It's so frustrating when he does that. Why? Why, JCB? Why do you need to make it ambiguous? Or why do you have to say, you can ignore proper nouns, you may ignore all 3-letter words? Like, why? Right. Why indeed, right? Let's think about that. So, what are the 3 additional items? Well, that's pretty easy because there's not that many there. It's the nugget, the gold, small gold bracelet, right? With 2 little gold beads, and the aforementioned necklace, right? So, here's the other puzzle, right? Of those 3, at least one is specifically in this treasure box, although maybe more. Which one would not be in here? Well, so a couple theories on this one. If you subscribe to the theory that, hey, the most fragile items are not going to be in here. They may be given to you, right, as a incentive to contact him, something, a deal you can work out for him to make sure you get it safely and all that, legitly. So, of these 3 items, which one's the most fragile? To me, seems no-brainer. It's the full-page necklace, all right? Again, it just looks the most fragile. I mean, a gold nugget, can't be that much damage to it. And, the beads look pretty solid gold, right? So I don't see that being as much damage, pretty small. So maybe these 2, or one of the 2, small gold bracelet and the nugget are in the box. And the necklace is out just for safety reasons, just for precaution. Because again, it's a 25 inches long, pretty solid necklace. Some of these beads could be fragile, if it's really that old, you don't want it breaking. And why would he show the picture? That's a good question. I mean, maybe he's keeping it out and showing the picture because of the description. Here's what's interesting about the description. Page 209 from Fenn himself, right? But special to the necklace are two gold cast objects. One, a jaguar claw, and the other a frog. All right? I like frogs. You can see those right here, right? So there's the frog. There's the jaguar claw. But what's this? Right there in the middle. It's another gold item. Why is that not mentioned in there? All right. Again, this is where we have to get a little bit. It's definitely a puzzle, because if you believe what JCB wrote, the italics, this paragraph right here, is not written by JCB. It's written by Fenn, right? Forrest himself had this to say about our necklace. So why would Fenn? I mean, Fenn wouldn't. I mean, couldn't, right? Be a participant in this clue. He couldn't neglect mentioning this, what looks like a Thor's hammer to me, gold object that's right there in the middle, like shining in our face. Because at first I was like, oh, he mentioned 2 out of the 3 gold things. The third one's got to be a clue, but how could that be a clue if Fenn wrote this and this whole hunt came about afterwards? I don't know. Maybe the clue is in the cast. Maybe 2 are gold, are 2 cast gold items. So maybe there's a difference between casting something and forging it. I mean, looking at the frog, we can see the backside, right? Which is interesting that he showed the back of it. Why wouldn't he show the front, right? If you're going to lay this necklace out, wouldn't it make sense to show the front of the frog? Unless that's part of the clue right there. I mean, I spent a lot of time looking at this photo, right? So I'm throwing out a bunch of ideas, and you can run with them or go with them as you will. But maybe that's the difference. Maybe the 2 cast are, and I don't know that much about forging or casting, right? I can kind of see how the frog is cast because the back is rough, right? So you put it in like a mold, pour the gold over it, and you get a nice little frog with a rough backside, right? But the jaguar claw, I mean, how would you cast that? Because it looks like you can see both sides. I mean, maybe you have an actual claw from a jaguar, and you dip it in gold or something, or you pour the gold over it, standing up vertically in a little cylinder. I'm not sure how that works. And again, we don't see the backside of this little hammer, as I'm calling it, right? Which, I know the Vikings, a lot of their jewelry had a little hammer. I don't know much about the Tairona civilization, other than it's based in Sierra Nevadas in South America, all right? Which I was trying to look for, see if they had any kind of connection or pull toward the Americas. The only thing I could really see from that specific culture is that they also had a rough time with the Spanish. The Spanish came in, pretty brutal to them, looking for a lost city of gold, which I think is what attracted Forrest Fenn. In my mind, I'm just guessing here, to this culture, because they had there was a mythology from the Spanish about the Tairona had a lost city of gold, which, I mean, they did have a little bit of it wasn't lost to them, like they knew where it was, but they had a secluded village that was high up in the mountains. The Spanish eventually found, and looters looted it. Now it's under the protection of the government. That's a pretty interesting story right there. But I didn't want to go too deep in the history because, again, this is history versus riddle, right? To varying degrees, though. That's what he says, to varying degree. So I did go a little bit into the history to see if maybe one of the varying degrees, there'll be something there. All right, but I suggest if you're taking a serious dive into this box, if you're fully focused on this box, it would behoove you to do a little bit of research about the Tairona and their culture in Colombia. All right, but again, I just can't shake out of my head that there's, 1, the frog is face down. Why? 2, that there's 3 gold items and only 2 are mentioned, but it just confuses me that Fenn himself only mentions 2, right? Okay, anyways, let's move on. So again, yeah, so if you're doing a deep dive into this, you may want to look at each of the 3 items that are pictured, right? The nugget, the small gold bracelet, and the large necklace. Find out in yourself which one is not in the box, or which 2 are not in the box, and then see if you can find a clue for the 2 that are in here. All right. Okay, now I think we're finally able to look at the actual chapter itself, which this is where my momentum kind of slows down. All right, this is where, because here's what I'm thinking. For a riddle like this, unless you're able to figure out what you're looking for, right? Because the traditional way that riddles and words were used to pass a treasure location item. Pass the location of a treasure was you and the other person had to have something in common. You had to know. You had to share a common knowledge or history. That would allow you to, if I'm writing it out so no one else knows, I can pass it along to you. I can publish it publicly. I put it somewhere where you'll see it and everybody else might see it, but you're the only one that'll be able to find the treasure because we share something in common, right? So this is JCB's. This is where we go back to the clue you have to decipher, right? He's telling you something in the chapter that we have to uncover and figure out so we can have that common knowledge to be able to interpret. If you just go into this is where I'm at right now, right? So don't get super bummed out. If you just go into trying to brute force the poem, which is written sort of ambiguously and has a lot of Forrest Fenn call outs, I think those are red herrings. I think you're gonna just spin your wheels. You're just gonna spin your tires in the mud because there's just so many ways you can interpret it across our play area, right? The Rocky Mountains. We have to figure out, in my mind, again, all this take this with a grain of salt. I'm no super genius, I'm no expert. We have to figure out what the clue is in the text. What item is not in here and why? What what are the words? Whether it's the description of the metal, whether it's the description of what his childhood dreams are, his previous lives that he would have liked to live. Something in there will help you to find what to do, what to get from the poem, all right? Or else it's just a riddle. You just have to brute force. And the thing with a riddle is, most of the time, if you're doing it, with like another person, they can tell you yes or no, right? Frodo doing it with Gollum, Gollum's telling him the right or wrong answers, right? He'll know when he gets it right. Doing this, you won't even know when you get it right. You'd have to, in order to figure it out, you'd have to do a solve, go boost on the ground, and even then, that wouldn't tell you if you're right or wrong because you'd have to spend a significant amount of time thoroughly grid searching it, and then you would know you're wrong, and then you do it again. So again, I did this deep dive just because I hadn't done it in a while and because people were asking for it. Maybe it'll shake something up, but I don't have anything that pops out. I still have the same old ideas I got when I went through this last time, right? Nothing new has popped out to me because I haven't found what I think we need to find from the text, from the images. That hasn't given me the clue for the poem. So I'm gonna end this video pretty soon, and I'm probably not gonna come back unless everybody. I don't really have more to give on this subject. Maybe in a couple months again, I might come back if no one else is doing anything on it, just to see if anything's changed, to see if I've uncovered it. And every once in a while, periodically with myself, I'll go back through that chapter and I'll read it to see if I can decipher the clue, right? But I think just brute forcing the poem, I mean, the way it's written and in the area, you can find almost anything. So, yeah, sorry, I wish this ended on a little bit more of a positive note, but that's really all I got from it. I mean, I'm still thinking the same old ideas that I had the last two times about a road I know, matching up the road numbers with something he's traveled in his past before, looking at names of rivers, looking at names of canyons, geography, looking at, a new idea might be trying to match some geography to some of the image locations. That'll be kind of rough. I mean, the shape of a nugget, the shape of the way the necklace is laid out there, that might be a stretch. The home of point, tree, and compass, still the same old ideas. If anything's new, I've kind of lowered the importance of the coin. I'll say that. The coin is no longer as significant to me, just from the way it's described as JCB describes it as him having something to commemorate and put it in. I think it's more of a sentimental thing, so I'm kind of lowering the importance on my sliding scale of importance. I'm lowering the coin. But I don't know. I hope that was informative to somebody. Hope you got a couple ideas out of it. Hope, if you're fully focused on this, I hope it gives you a recharge and gives you some new ideas to attack it again. Yeah, let me know if anything in the comments strikes you out. But yeah, I'm still striking out on that box. Yeah. All right. So maybe tomorrow we'll, I start working again for the next 3 days. So the schedule will be a little bit tighter, but we'll see if I can go back to the Washington chapter and then finish out the book. We're close. I think I got like, what, 5 or 6 left. And then I've already started to compile the nuggets that we've gotten from the last previous chapters, compiling these nuggets together, see if we can make a Happy Meal, see if I get some kind of idea for a box. But I will say, going through has helped me interpret JCB's writing. In my mind, again, because we don't know who's right, or we don't know if we're doing that correctly or not, if I'm doing that correctly or not. But reading the book multiple times, spending a lot of time in the chapter, analyzing the words, I think, and I remember, I think Joe was calling this out very early on, that the reason why you have to read it early on is to figure out JCB's writing style, figure out where it's just him being cute with phrases and where it's intentional. So I think I'm a little bit there, and that now when I look at the chapters in part 2, because I read so much of his writing in part 1, that I can kind of figure out in my mind when he's being cute, when he's being intentional with the words. So we'll see. All right, that's it. Take care, guys. Like and subscribe. We're almost to 1,000, so that'd be really cool. So we're at like 900 now. So if you're watching these videos and you haven't subscribed yet, most of you guys have, and you let me know. But if you haven't, just make sure you subscribe. All right. Take care. Bye.